It's weird. Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to a new episode of Bayou Bets for Monday, July the 11th. I'm Zach Ewing, along with Spencer the Guru Urquhart and Jim Derry on this fine, sweltering Monday. Jim always likes to talk weather to start his podcast, so I just wanted to share before we get going. I got an email. You guys ever get those emails from like PR firms that put together lists about, oh, the New Orleans area ranks this in the country or whatever? Baton Rouge is number 3 in the country in terms of the sweatiest cities.
Oh.
And New Orleans is number 4. New Orleans is right behind it.
I don't talk about sweat on the podcast.
No, you don't. So I am admittedly upping the ante here, but it's a sweaty day out there.
It is most definitely brutal, and thank God the Saints play indoors.
The other rumor that today was that New Orleans may be getting an expansion USL franchise, which is the soccer league like right underneath MLS. They play in the summer outdoors. Like,
yeah.
I love soccer, but am I going to go to those games? No, I can't. I can barely sit through my kids' games in the summer. I'm not going to see somebody else's kids play.
But you'll bet on it.
Yes, I will. New Orleans is not. In fact, this might be the only thing Baton Rouge is ranked ahead of New Orleans, and they're 3rd, and New Orleans is 4th in terms of sweaty cities in America. So, on that note, welcome to Bayou Bets. We are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. You can get a fantastic promo if you're a new user to the Caesars Sportsbook. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars to sign up, and your first bet is risk-free up to $1,500. Meaning if you lose, you get that money back in bonus cash and you get to bet it all over again. So any bet amount up to $1,500 and you basically get a second bite at the apple. So go to NOLA.com/Caesars to check that out for new users. In just a few minutes on today's show, we will be joined by Daniel Sallerson, who's a radio analyst for the New Orleans Pelicans. Going to talk some summer league with him. We're going to talk some Zion Williamson extension and just general Pelicans momentum. But I did want to start with the thing that everybody's talking about lately, and that's football right around the corner. Tomorrow, Jim, your first of 32 team-by-team betting previews for the NFL comes out.
Yeah, assuming I can finish it by 7 or 8 a.m. tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing pretty well. It's going to be a really cool thing. We've got, besides my monologue and my predictions, we've got Adam Chernoff of Covers.com is going to come on for each one at the end of each episode. Their videos and stories, they accompany each other. And Adam's going to come on and tell me whether he thinks I'm right, wrong, or it's one of those stay away. There's a lot of stay aways. So, we'll be talking mostly over-unders. Some of them we'll be talking about Super Bowl odds, conference odds, division odds, all those things. Nice graphics, some good stuff to go with it. They're each about 5 to 7 minutes long, the videos. Stories are pretty short. Be a fun thing to spend 10 minutes a day on NFL team previews. You can't get enough of it, and I know Spencer's going to have something to go with it.
Yeah, sure will. Yeah, they have a fantasy team previews for each team, breaking down which players are good values in the draft, which ones to stay away from, and just have an analysis on on all the fantasy relevant players for each team.
Yeah, and so I think I counted, and this is just the stuff that is scheduled, not even spontaneous. Odds may come up, or a trade or an injury or something may change odds, and we'll write something else. But we have scheduled between now and opening night of the NFL season in LA on September the 8th. We have scheduled 56 videos and 115 pieces of written content just on football alone. And so if you want to know about the NFL and college football and betting on the NFL and college football, we are certainly your place to be. You will be the most educated fan and the most educated bettor in the state if you follow our stuff. So starting tomorrow with the Buffalo Bills.
Zach, I'm just glad you didn't load us up with too much stuff to do between now and the start of football season. I really appreciate it that we have.
For the record, 64 of those are 32 of the videos and 32 of the pieces of written content are this team by team series Jim is doing, for which you volunteer. So let's just set the record straight on that. Spencer has moved to New Orleans, by the way. Good news. Congratulations to Spencer on the new home. He's in Uptown New Orleans, and so we have a bigger presence there. Caesar Sportsbook today, by the way, unveiled renderings of their new sportsbook inside Harrah's that's going to open Labor Day weekend, just in time for the college football season, just a couple days before LSU plays Florida State in the Superdome on September the 4th. Looks fantastic. We have pictures up on the website now, actually, bet.NOLA.com. So exciting stuff.
If you were tech savvy, you would have been able to put some of those pictures into this show. You know that.
I resent that comment. I actually was going to do it and just ran out of time.
Oh, okay.
And then we can do that for At the Book Thursday. Tease how the book's going to be looking.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. That's right.
Live from New Jersey.
See, Jim harasses me, and Spencer comes up with solutions. That's why I like Spencer. That's what this is.
Somebody's got to do it.
My wife probably likes Spencer better. That's okay.
Mark says the Pelicans look like a 5-6 seed in the West. We are going to talk about that with Daniel Sallerson here in just a minute. I did want to start, since we're talking football. Let's look at some Super Bowl odds, because the team you happen to be starting with, Jim, is the Buffalo Bills, who are the Super Bowl favorites at Caesar Sportsbook as of right now.
Yeah, and it's an interesting take at which Bills team are we going to get. You know, not to give out too much away, but you know, are we going to get the same Bills team from last year, because they were up and down like a roller coaster. They went on hot streaks where they couldn't be beat, but then they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they have an interesting total of 11.5 over under. But you know, Super Bowl odds, when you're talking, you got to be really sure to be betting a plus 650. You know, Spencer was great at getting bargains in the NBA playoffs. To me, if you like the Bills, I think you just wait and you hope they aren't as good as we think they are, and maybe they get on a run towards the end of the season, because really their schedule in the back half of the year is definitely easier than the front half. So you might be able to get better odds on those guys if you wait a little bit, but I'll tell you, plus 650 is tough.
Yeah, I know people look for picks, but I see a lot more teams on this list I'm not touching with a 27.5-foot pole than I do teams that I'm betting. You could not convince me in 100 years to bet the Green Bay Packers at 11-1. You could not convince me to bet the Denver Broncos at 16-1. I mean, some of these, you got to wait and see how things are going to be before you're willing to lay any kind of money on them.
Yeah, and the problem, Zach, is if you really do like a team, and especially if they have an easier schedule to start with, and they start out hot, you're not going to get numbers anywhere near this. So you kind of have to go through, look at their schedule. Again, like the Bills, who have a tougher schedule in the first half. If you like the Bills, you probably can wait on them a little bit and get something better later on. But, you know, maybe there are other teams that we'll get to along the way who have a easy schedule early, and there's a good chance they start 6-2. I mean, you talk about the Saints, and not to give anything away, but if you like the Saints, their numbers aren't going to go down. I mean, their toughest stretch of schedule is certainly in the back half. So, you know, if you like the Saints, bet them now as we transition to that. And Zach, we've seen their numbers already change. I mean, they were plus
look at that
5,
win total.
000.
That win total was 7.5, and now it's minus 150 to the over on 8.
To be 8. So, yeah, and I've got a big chunk at 7.5. So I hope that comes through. But, you know, if anything you like with the Saints, you need to bet it between now and really, I'll be honest, I'd say by the second week of preseason, because people are going to start betting. I think that win total is going to get to 8.5 before the season starts.
Yeah, go ahead, Spencer.
I could see that, because I'm seeing like more and more people are coming on to the Saints as far as giving them more respect. And it's just, when you look at the roster, there's no denying the talent, especially if everybody's healthy. So yeah, I could definitely see that going to 8.5, because minus 150, that's a lot of juice to lay. I mean, that's a big, I'd almost rather it just be at 8.5 and have it be even money, because I think the Saints will definitely win at least 9 or 10 games. So I just assume take 8.5 at with, you know, a little better, you know, with a like plus 110 or something.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I would never. I'm not laying minus 150 on any win total on anyone. It would have to be just super off. I mean, for me to, I mean, you'd have to have the Bills at like 9.5 or 10 for me to pay 150. I mean, that's an absurd number. So you really can't bet that now. You have to, like Spencer said, you really kind of have to hope it goes to 8.5 and you get it at minus 110 or even close to even money, which I think there's a good chance that it will do.
Yeah, it may. And the thing about 8 is obviously 8 and 9 kind of feels like close to a worst case scenario. I mean, you never want to say that in the NFL because the bottom could really fall out if you have enough injuries. But 8 and 9, you still get a push here, and so that's the huge value in that. But I do want to say, in 3 days on Thursday at the book at 4:00, that's going to be basically a full football show. We'll talk a little British Open, as we will today as well. But that's going to be a big time football show, and so we'll talk much more about that. I want to switch gears here and talk some New Orleans Pelicans. We're pleased to have with us today Daniel Sallerson of the Pelicans, radio analyst. Daniel, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. How are you?
We're fantastic. We're indoors in the air conditioning. I don't know if you missed the talk, but Baton Rouge beat New Orleans by 1 spot on the sweatiest cities in America list. So we got you there.
It is hot today here. I'm glad I'm in the AC as well.
All right. So the first thing we want to talk about, a lot to talk about with the Pelicans, actually, for it being July. But in a little less than an hour here, they play their second summer league game out in Vegas. They play the Atlanta Hawks. Pelicans are actually 6-point favorites in that game for those of you who want to analyze summer league rosters. But tell us, Daniel, what should fans be looking out for? Dyson Daniels, the first round pick, is hurt. He's not playing anymore in the summer league. But having said that, what should fans be looking out for as they tune into these Pel summer league games?
Yeah, and the same goes now for Jose Alvarado, who won't play in the rest of them too, just because he played too much with the Puerto Rican team earlier this summer. So I think the big things you need to look out for are some of the, I guess you'd say, veterans of the team that are playing in summer league, which is Trey Murphy, Najee Marshall, even Jared Harper, who had a nice game. Look, all those guys, Trey Murphy had a pretty decent game, but with 1 of 9 from 3 last game. They all seem to struggle offensively, only scoring 68 points and losing by 17. So not the best start for a team that had some high hopes here at Summer League, especially now with the Dyson Daniels injury. But I think the biggest thing to keep an eye out for is now some of those veterans, what progress they're making. Guys like Trey Murphy working on their ball handling. Same with Najee Marshall. Second round pick EJ Liddell, what can he bring to the table? Only scoring a couple of points the other night. So it's hard to evaluate Summer League. There's times where you want to overreact a little bit based on one game. There's times that you need to calm the expectations down because it is Summer League and some players are just trying to work on specific things. So with this game tonight, we were watching with the rest of the time, just look at the developmental pieces, the players that are going to be there, and just see what sticks out with them, and hopefully they make some improvements throughout the rest of the Summer League.
And the very difficult thing to bet on the Summer League, I feel like, although
yes,
if you can find an edge, I mean, there are clearly some teams, and the Pelicans may be one of them, who winning games is not really the end game here. It's, they're here to develop players. If they end up winning a championship, that's fantastic. But they don't, by design, have the most competitive roster out there. And so we'll just bring up some Summer League odds here as we talk about it. And this, Pistons, Knicks, Magic, you got to go down to the Clippers before you find a team here that's a probable playoff team next year. And they're at 8-1. It is interesting, though, Daniel, the way different teams approach the Summer League differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just depends on what their rosters look like. There are certain teams that don't send a lot of guys just because they're pretty much their rosters all set. There are teams like the Pistons and the Knicks, and look at the Magic with Paulo Banchero. I mean, a lot of momentum with him just being the number 1 pick overall. In 3 of those teams with the Knicks, even though they trade their pick, were lottery picks during this year's NBA draft. So the approach is definitely different. I mean, last year the Pelicans went 5-0 and didn't even make it to the championship game. The format has changed where there's no more bracket. It's just now if you're the top 2 teams and if there's tiebreakers, there's point differential, quality of wins, then you can get lost in that. It seems like now the Pelicans probably won't make it into that. But when it comes to the other teams, some prioritize it as we want to go out here and win. We want to see these rookies develop, and some of them just want to go out there, see a few players play. I mean, there could be a chance for the Pelicans that Trey Murphy doesn't play in all 4 games or Najee Marshall doesn't play in all 4 games for these guys that were in the playoffs last year. You don't want to risk injury. So trying to bet on Summer League, individually, yet alone the odds to win is extremely difficult. And another reason why is because there's no injury reports in the morning. So normally with an NBA game, you get an idea of who's in and who's out 6-7 hours before tip-off. Now you just depend on Twitter and who gets the access, as far as we just learned probably 20 minutes ago that no Dyson Daniels and no Jose Alvarado for tonight's game. So you're kind of rolling the dice there, seeing who might just randomly be sitting out that you didn't know about, and trying to bet on those teams.
Daniel, you talk about approach, and the Pelicans, obviously their roster is a lot different this year than it was going into last year when there was so many question marks, and now this team is in so much better shape than it was 12 months ago. What kind of approach are the Pelicans taking? And what, obviously they found some diamonds in the rough last year. Herb Jones came out of nowhere. How are they approaching this summer league?
Yeah, I think as far as those few guys, I think they're approaching summer league with who has a shot at making their roster as a two-way player. Both those positions are going to be open. They signed one of the guys from NC State to be one of them, but who will be your second two-way guy? Which players will go into the G League? But as far as everything else, their approach is just guys learning the system, guys trying to, again, work on individual things. We mentioned Trey Murphy. We mentioned Najee Marshall. We mentioned some of the guys that have been in the Pelicans roster. Jared Harper's been with the team for a couple of years now, just hasn't really cracked the roster besides the two-way player, just trying to improve. And, of course, they want to win every game, but for them, it's not the end-all, be-all as far as them trying to go all the way and win a championship. Each team now gets 5 games no matter what. So for them, that's 5 games that how they can work on and try to get better. So especially now with a loss, you're most likely not going to win a championship that you can really focus on. If you want to try different rotations, you want to try different lineups out there, you certainly can do so. But I think the biggest thing is when you're evaluating players right now is which of them can join your G League roster, which are you going to stash maybe out in Europe, and which ones are you just going to flat out not bring back with you heading into training camp. So, I mean, where there's 15 guys and not that many roster spaces, as you mentioned, a lot more continuity heading into the season. The Pelicans really don't have a lot of wiggle room to add players. So the approach right now is just more to evaluate and see who sticks out and who doesn't.
For sure. Yeah, Daniel, I had a question for you about free agency, being that it's still going on hot and heavy. A lot of big names still yet to land in new homes, but it looks like the Pels roster is pretty set. Do you think that they make any tweaks in free agency, or you think they pretty much just go with the guys they've got right now?
Yeah, they have 14 players under contract now out of a possible 15, and then there's 2 more for two-way players. So as of now, their roster is pretty much set. Just depends on whether they want to leave that roster spot open in case of injuries or other things like that. The free agency, of course, the big one, everyone I think is waiting for the domino effect of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, whether those guys get traded or not. And the Nets could drag this out till as late as training camp too. So the question is, if anything the Pelicans are going to do, it's most likely going to be as far as a trade is concerned. Look, their biggest free agent signing was basically Zion, and that was the extension. You're getting a healthy Zion back, so that's better probably than any free agent you're going after anyways right now. And again, with so much momentum from last year, a team that started off 1-12, 3-13, and ended up 3-16, and ended up going to the playoffs. A lot of those guys that you guys mentioned with Herb Jones and Trey Murphy's, the diamonds in the rough that you found, you want to build off that. And so continuity is a big thing with this team. So I don't see them making major moves. I don't see them making a ton of moves unless there's a trade out there that maybe grabs them another veteran piece to kind of get them to the next step as far as what progress they want to make this season. But I think it might be probably one of the quietest off seasons we've seen from this team, especially with how much turnover there's been over the last few years.
You're watching Bayou Bets here on bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. Zach Spencer and Jim, joined by Daniel Sallerson, radio analyst for the New Orleans Pelicans. And Daniel, kind of to your point, like it is amazing the transformation this franchise has gone through. I mean, really just in a year and a half, like maybe even in a year. Last summer, Zion was hurt preseason. There was a lot of question marks about where things were going to go. Everybody knew Kendrick Perkins was talking on ESPN every day about how Zion was going to go to New York and the Pelicans were going to relocate. Like I don't know that any of that was ever realistic, but it was the tenor around the team was so negative and so uncertain. And here we are a year later, and the Pelicans are like dark horse to make a deep playoff run. Maybe not even a dark horse.
Yeah, well, we'll put to bed the whole relocation stuff because none of that was even close to being true. That was Kendrick Perkins just being that guy on ESPN. at least he apologized for what he said in the whole Zion to New York. Again, all that stuff was just happening because of what was happening with Zion. And of course, you never want to start out a media day in a training camp with your best player being out for, what we didn't think was going to be an entire season end up being one. And as you mentioned earlier, there were 7 or 8 new guys on the roster. So with a new head coach for the 3rd straight season, you're wondering what steps the Pelicans were going to take, because you were hoping for them to make a little bit of a leap under David Griffin and Trajan Langdon. And I feel like, one, they hit on their draft picks so well between Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, and then finding undrafted free agent Jose Alvarado. That really made a huge difference as far as what they were able to do. And of course, the hiring Willie Green, I think, was the icing on the cake. I mean, what he brought, the culture that he is bringing to New Orleans, the team first atmosphere, the players really enjoy him. They never fought with each other. The locker room never broke when this team was, in last place in the Western Conference, climbed all the way back. They got CJ McCollum at the deadline. And the fact that CJ wanted to come here just shows the transformation that has been made, as you mentioned, in the last 12 months. This was a team that we thought in January, all right, well, they're not going anywhere this year, to looking at this offseason like, wow, can you imagine what a healthy team looks like with Zion Williamson on the floor? I don't think really anyone knows at this point, but it's going to be really intriguing with Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum, a big 3, as you would say, with some of the young pieces you have surrounding them. It's going to be a fun year for New Orleans.
Yeah, we as a staff went to a game just the week before Christmas last year, guys, and it was like that was the first time you sort of felt like the momentum around the franchise was changing a little bit. So I say a year, even if you went back 7 months, today's
right.
July 11th. So you go back to December 11th. This franchise, it felt like, was sort of lost in the wilderness a little bit. I don't know if it felt like that within the franchise, but it sped up quickly and got a lot better. And I showed the odds a minute ago of what things look like. And here's an interesting look to it at the NBA Western Conference. And if you look at the odds, Caesars doesn't have odds to make the playoffs or win totals or anything like that yet. But so just odds to win the Western Conference. And if you count the teams here, you go down and the Pelicans are still the 9th team listed, which would tell you what the odds say is that they're still a borderline playoff team. My question, Daniel, is what constitutes success this year? Now that you have Zion back, now that CJ will be here for a whole offseason, now that Brandon Ingram is sort of an established star and you have hit on these draft picks and a young team is growing up, the expectations ramp up a little bit. So how do you define success for the Pels this year?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I feel like expectations could be set a lot higher and people can think, oh, they should be a top 2 or 3 team in the West. I don't think the Pelicans are there yet. They're still very young and they still have to work in all these pieces that Willie Green didn't have last year to work in Zion with BI and CJ McCollum and some of the shooters around them. That's another thing the Pelicans might need to address, is still adding some shooters to the roster. But I think for them, successful would be not worrying about a play-in spot. I think trying to get one of those top 6 seeds and not have to worry about playing in the play-in would certainly be considered a successful season. Also, if you want to go a little bit lower, it's hosting the play-in, being the 7 seed, and making sure that you only need 1 game just to get in. But I feel like this team can make a leap. The only problem is the teams that you listed on there are very good. All of those teams on there, you look at the Timberwolves, what they did. Will that experiment go well with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, both 2 big centers? Will the Memphis Grizzlies continue the way they played, really not grabbing free agents, but drafted really well? Dallas and Denver, teams that, they lost their GM in the Denver Nuggets. Do you lose a little continuity there? You do get Jamal Murray back. And the Lakers being 4th there, it's a huge question mark, because you don't know whether they're going to get Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant or none of them. And if they bring back that same roster, are they going to really be a team that makes that huge leap after not making the playoffs? And again, all this could shift here with what Kevin Durant does as well if he goes to the Western Conference. So that's the challenge with the Pelicans. I think they're a really good team and could jump some of these teams. You always see a couple teams make that big leap. And I think the Pelicans could be one of those teams. But you also have to figure out which teams are going to dip a little bit. So do the Grizzlies take that tumble? Do the Timberwolves falter with 2 big men? Or is it another team that kind of goes below the radar as well? So I think for the Pelicans, I think getting 1 through 6 would be their goal for next year, and then working their way up towards the Western Conference top seeds.
Daniel, it almost makes you wish you could bet for the championship of 2024 and get those kind of odds for 2024, because I'd like to get your opinion on this, but I think if you're looking at future the brightest futures. The Pelicans have to be in the top 5 in the league as far as bright futures go.
Oh, absolutely. They have one of the best cores in the NBA, and especially with the youth that they have. Zion Williamson just turning 22 years old, Brandon Ingram 24, CJ McCollum not even at 30 yet. And again, with Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, and I know I'm missing people, Jackson Hayes, you have Jonas that we haven't even talked about yet, locked in for a couple more years. If the continuity stays the way it is, you're absolutely right. They may not make that leap this year as far as being one of the top seeds in the Western Conference, but in 2 years, this could be one of the most dangerous teams. Plus, if people start noticing what they can do, who knows what free agents can be added. And some stars might realize that this team is just one piece away, and they could be that piece to help get this team to the next level. So, yeah, that is a shame that you can't do it right now. But I absolutely think that this team could be one of the top teams in the Western Conference in a couple of years. I think this.
And that's without talking, Daniel. That's without talking about Willie Green, this bright young coach who obviously, in just 1 year, you worry how a rookie head coach is going to adjust. I don't know that anyone is adjusted after 1 year the way he has, not in recent memory.
Yeah, you go to Ime Udoka from the Boston Celtics, who was a rookie coach that took the Celtics to the finals, but he had the easier, I guess, way to get there as far as the team that the Boston Celtics already have. But for what Willie Green did from the very beginning, you're absolutely right, Jim, as far as handling a team that started 1-12, handling the news that he wasn't going to get the best player in Zion Williamson to start the year, and then finding a way to get this team. We got to watch practice and shoot-arounds every day, and did not seem like we were watching a team that was 1-12. And that was just because of how Willie Green was able to keep them energized, keep them together. And again, the locker room acted like they weren't 1-12. And that wasn't because they didn't care. It's because they all knew that they were better than what their record showed. And they just got on the same page. They got a little healthier, and you saw the progression that they made throughout the season. That all starts with Willie Green. And CJ McCollum talked about how much he wanted to play for Willie. This is a guy that learned under Monty Williams. You kind of get a little bit of Monty Williams in Willie Green based on how he is. And he also learned under Steve Kerr, 2 guys that he went to the finals for 3 straight years under those 2 guys. So he knows what it takes as a coach to get to that level. And he hit the ground running. And what stuck out to me about his press conference a couple of years ago was that he says, number 1 is to build relationships with these players. Number 2 will be the X's and O's. He wasn't worried about his X's and O's. It was worried about building the trust in the player so that they are ready to play for him whenever he needs them. And I think, as you mentioned, I think Willie Green is one of the main factors is why the Pelicans were able to make the playoffs despite having a poor start.
Daniel, just a couple more minutes with you if we can. And one thing I want to touch on, Zion has been sort of the lodestar for this team now ever since he was drafted in 2019. And obviously the injuries have been the issue. When he's been on the court, he's been great. But the narrative has gone toward, hey, he's always hurt. He's overweight. His weight is never going to allow him to be healthy. Some of this, it's media overreaction, especially these national talk shows where everybody has to have an opinion. Zion, I think people have forgotten how special he has been at times. What kind of player could we be looking at here over the next 5 years in New Orleans if he stays healthy?
Yeah, he's just scratching the surface. I think there's more to his game that he can bring, which is even scarier. I mean, we were introduced to Point Zion when he was healthy a couple seasons ago under Stan Van Gundy. He was averaging 27 points and 8 rebounds and would bring up the basketball. Now you might not necessarily not need that from him, but you certainly can if the option shows for that, or the whatever situation they're in shows for that. But I think when you have guys like Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum around him, that just changes your approach, and it changes how you guard Zion Williamson, because you can't just worry about Zion. And that's what's good about the makeup of this team is you have to keep your eyes on Brandon Ingram. You have to keep your eyes on CJ McCollum, a shooter like Trey Murphy in the corner. So you can clear the way and have Zion Williamson do his thing. And of course, I'm sure he's been working on his mid-range jumper a little bit. I think he's starting to open things up a little bit more. I'm sure you'll see a 3-pointer or 2 later on in his career, or even in a couple seasons. Every big man starts to now try to creep back to that 3-point arc and try to build on that. So if he starts knocking down some threes or even some jumpers, that just opens up his game even more. But I think he's just scratching the surface. Again, the key is going to be his health. But if you're looking at pictures right now, he looks really good. He feels good. I think getting this contract out of the way just squashes anything that people are saying about him not wanting to be here. which is a great thing. He's been in New Orleans focusing on that, and he saw what this building was like during the playoffs. And I think he wants to be a big part of that. And so I think, again, what Willie Green can draw up for him, it's going to be amazing to see what he can do in the next 5 years here with the Pelicans.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun. A lot of reasons to be optimistic around the New Orleans Pelicans, and you can see some of that future in the summer league over the next 10 days or so. So should be a lot of excitement. Daniel Sallerson, New Orleans Pelicans radio analyst, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can have you back on as we get toward the season here in the fall.
Anytime you need me, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right, thanks
Thanks,
you very
Daniel.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Our thanks to Daniel and the Pelicans. And we did get a comment here. Maybe I should have asked Daniel. I don't know in his position if he was willing to say, James, has any summer league games you like today? I got to be honest. I kind of like Atlanta against New Orleans. I don't think the Pelicans are necessarily trying to win these games, and you're getting 6 points with Atlanta.
Yeah, it's not like last year when I think that they really were trying to win these games and they were important to them to win. You talk about Dyson Daniels being gone now and Alvarado being gone. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not going to say I'm going to put money on something like that, but if you're looking to have a little fun, put a couple bucks down just to enjoy it a little bit more. I agree with you. If I had to take something, I would take Atlanta +6.
And actually, the line is down to 4.5. So that may be the Jose Alvarado news coming in that he's not playing either. But I still think if you're getting plus money with the Hawks tonight, I would go ahead and take that if you feeling that itch for some summer league action tonight. Spencer, anything you saw on the summer league lines?
Not too much. I actually did a daily best bets. Did MLB and had a couple over under plays. Had the Mets Braves under and the A's Rangers over. Yeah, the summer league, I was just like, it's just too unpredictable. Baseball's tough, but not as tough as summer league.
Well, Uncle Big Nick just dropped a comment. I'll let Jim decide if he wants to show that or not. But I think it's a good segue to get into some golf here, since that's Uncle Big Nick's forte.
I can't show it. You guys have to show it. It's on you.
Oh,
sure, go ahead.
All right. Well, we'll show it then. Yeah, gray beard over there. It makes you look stately and sophisticated, kind of like St. Andrews. So
it's a perfect week for that. You know, I was around. This is the 150th British Open. I wasn't alive until I think the 12th or 13th British Open, but you know, I've seen quite a few. I've seen my share.
General William Tecumseh Sherman came to ask you for some advice on that one. And
he did, and you know, I used the snooker.
No, he was dead by then, wasn't he? 100. Yeah, my timeline's off a little bit.
Well, I did find out some interesting information about golf during the Scottish Open. Do you guys know why they play 18 holes?
I do not.
They play 20. They play 20 and 22 at times, but they chopped it down to 18 because 18. There are 18 shots in a bottle of whiskey.
Wow,
so
that is a very Scottish reason for that.
So you can take it from there.
I love it. Little PSA: if you want to bet British Open, you got to get your bets in by Wednesday night. I mean, right. I guess that's true for any golf tournament, but especially this one. I think the first tee times on Thursday are like 12:30 a.m. our time. It's a 6-hour time difference. So you can't do it like right before bed Wednesday. You're going to have to do it earlier in the evening. And so that's why we're talking about it a lot today. By the time our show rolls around Thursday afternoon at the book, the first round will be over. Well, so we'll talk some first round leaders.
Uncle Big Nick lives on UK time anyway. I think he wakes up at like 2 in the morning and goes to bed at like 7 at night. So he lives on UK time anyway. So perfect for him. I'll be doing all my golf studying tomorrow after I can. Still working on football stuff today, so hopefully get a better chance to look at it. But I can tell you that there are some names for sure that will be on my list for next week, and some names for sure that won't be on my list. I wish Jordan Spieth had played a little bit worse on Sunday because I really like Jordan Spieth. Again, I have not done all my homework. I'm not certain that he's going to be my pick to click this week, but I really like the way he's playing right now, and these courses just fit him perfectly. So Jordan Spieth is certainly going to be on my card. Xander Schauffele will not be. I'm not going to pick as well as he's playing. That price is insane. 1,400.
He's the guy, Jim. I was going to say, I wish he had played a little bit worse because if he had come in at 20-1, I would have said, yeah, I kind of like Xander. But he's won 2 starts in a row now, plus a pro-am in between. super hot. It's driven the price down. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with Nick too, and I like Cameron Smith as well. So I know those two names will definitely be on my list this week. I got to go through and try to pare down. We bet a little bit more on majors than we do on a regular tournament, but I kind of like Terrell Hatton. He kind of faded a little bit. He looked like I was really hoping he would get through, and then how can you not like Matt Fitzpatrick at 1,800? So we got a lot of studying to do, a lot of going through, but there are some guys last week that you kind of expected them not to play that well because I think they were just using it as a tune-up. Looking back now, I wish I wouldn't have put Justin Thomas as one of my guys because you could easily see that he was just using this as a tune-up. And look, we said it in the preview for the Scottish Open. A lot of times when you're talking about a tournament like this and they're getting ready for a major, if they don't think they're going to make the cut or they're going to be at the bottom of the barrel of the cut, they're just like, well, what do I care? They'd rather miss it by one almost when you're talking about a tournament like that, so they don't have to play. That's 2 extra days they got off before they can to get themselves ready for the British Open. Although John Rahm might need some time off for his mouth. I don't know.
I don't
know if you guys watched any of that, but there were a few live filth on filth words being shouted out.
A whole new meaning to the term Grumpy John. Nick brings up a little more of a long shot. Keith Mitchell, apparently his daughter went to school there, so that's a possibility. Familiarity is big with this course, and that a couple of guys I kind of like at higher numbers. One's at the bottom of this list is Dustin Johnson at 35-1, and then next list 40-1 Sam Burns. There are some similarities between playing at St. Andrews and playing at Augusta. We know Dustin Johnson dominates at Augusta, or at least he has previously. 35-1 for that guy. I mean, I know you got the Live Tour narrative and everything, but it just seems like an awful lot of value there. And I feel the same way about Sam Burns, a world-class player at 40-1.
And I like Mark Leishman at plus 8,000. I will tell you this. If you want any tip for the tournament that I can definitely give you now without studying, do not bet on Tiger Woods.
60-1 it's just
he could
terrible.
be 200-1. And I'm not betting on Tiger Woods. Do not bet on Tiger Woods. There you go. There's your tip.
Or John Daly at 1,000-1 there at the bottom.
John Daly at 1,000-1. Yeah. Do they let you smoke anymore on the course? I don't think so.
What was the line from The Office where Kevin says, if someone gives you 5,000-1 odds on anything, you take it? So maybe if John Daly was 5,000-1, I would think about it. But at 1,000-1, I don't know that I can. What was was it the Mexico Open where he had the lead like after the first round, or he was right up there or something? There was one tournament this year.
Yeah, there was. It was about 4 weeks ago. Which one was? I don't remember which one. It might have been the U.S. Open. Was it? No, it was right around the U.S. Open.
Yeah, there was some tournament where he had like an 18.
He was like one
lead.
Under through.
Yeah.
It was something ridiculous, but yeah.
This is a good point from Nick too. And if you didn't watch the weather at the Scottish Open last week, you could really get burned. And it's the same thing here. Like if you don't know what the weather's going to be like,
it's going to be very similar. It's looking like it's going to be very similar to what it was the Scottish Open. Actually, warmer than normal and always windy. So, I mean, you gotta take that wind into account. And I would save
some money to bet your outrights, bet your pre-tournament stuff. Save some money for tournament matchups and things like that because sometimes the weather doesn't really materialize what it's going to be like until the night before. And you can look at it and say, "Boy, the afternoon's going to be a disaster."
And live betting.
You can bet more on guys who are teeing off earlier. Or
Xander stunk it up in the first round. If you really liked them, I don't know exactly what the odds were, and Nick might know better than I. But I know you could have had Xander Schauffele after day one for a nice little price. I'm guessing
he was 11 shots back.
I'm guessing 35-40-1. So
he was 11 shots back, and granted, he was getting the morning tee time and on day two, so you figured he'd be a little bit better, but he really won that tournament on Friday and Saturday.
That's another thing to look at, and especially if the wind's going to be worse on one of the days on Thursday or Friday that you can look at and find, then I'm definitely taking a morning, evening guy. I want a guy because the wind's going to be, what was it? I can't read that. What is it, 55-1, he says?
Yeah, Xander got up to 55-1.
I mean, so there you go. But, I mean, if I do look at that, and I generally play guys more often than not, guys that play in the morning on Thursday and then play in the evening on Friday. I like them more anyway because really, you go out there and throw that number out there, it sticks way more times than it doesn't. So, but then again, like I'm saying, if the wind's going to be worse on Thursday than it is on Friday, then it does give maybe the evening players an advantage. That you just got to look at it and figure it out, because you want those the morning guys, they're going to get less wind. Actually, the other way around. Friday, the wind's going to be worse on Thursday. You might want to play an evening guy because they're going to get better wind on the next day.
All right, Spencer, you look like you might be like your air conditioner went out. You got all foggy all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, I turned it off for the show because it's kind of loud. So yeah, I'm getting a little hot up in here.
All right. Well then, let's wrap this up, because we do live in the third and fourth sweatiest cities in America. Your pick to click British Open. Spencer, you go first. You got to pick one guy. I can go to the second page if you need. Who are you taking to win at St. Andrews this weekend?
Alrighty. Yeah, it's just tough, man. These golf tournaments so hard to pick. I would have to say though, I'll give Zalatoris a shot. You know, he's come close, man. I'm gonna pick him to get it done.
Great iron player, could be a good pick. Jim, how about you? A pick to click.
Well, is he play better than he played in the Scottish Open? And he will, for sure. If I have to pick one guy, I'm going to take Jordan Spieth. I really think that this, again, I like the way he played. I like the way that he was putting for the most part at the Scottish Open. He's been doing a little bit better. The yips have disappeared. I know Uncle Big Nick likes Cam Smith. If I got to take one, and without looking through all my numbers this early, I'm going to take Jordan Spieth.
I thought you were going to take Cam, so I'll go ahead and take the easy route and take Cam Smith, because I love his game on the links course.
UBN's page.
25-1. I did mention DJ. I like, and honestly, if Rory was 12-1 favorite instead of 9-1, I might bet him.
I'm not touching Rory. Yeah.
I can't stand those single digit numbers in golf betting. 9-1's too low, but I do think Rory will be. He will compete for this. I mean, this course is made for him. He's from that part of the world. He feels at home. I think he feels motivated to win. And honestly, like I said, if you could get Xander at 18 or 20-1, he's a guy I would live bet if he gets off to a slow start.
Yeah.
And you could get him in the 20s.
And I don't like his number, but I can tell you John Rahm is going to play well this weekend. After he was so ticked off Thursday and Friday, he is going to play well. And I would be
Nick's
surprised
if Cantlay. All right.
Okay. Well, I'd be surprised if Rahm is not in the mix on Sunday or late morning, early afternoon here.
My only thing with Rahm, I mean, outside of the Mexico Open, which was one of the easier tournaments they played all year, when was the last time he actually played well, where you could look at the end of 4 rounds and say, yeah, he was. I mean, it's been a long time. So I don't know that I want to put my money where John Rahm's mouth is.
Well, and I think that if you're ever going to get value, it's going to be after he's been playing kind of poorly. I think he's going to be focused and ready to go.
All right, so that is the British Open. This is Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com. We're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Just a reminder, if you are a new user, you can sign up for Caesars Sportsbook and get a $1,500 risk-free bet, any amount up to $1,500. Just go to NOLA.com/Caesars, and that promo code is automatically loaded up for you. And that's going to do it for us. I'll join the Thursday show from New Jersey, and where I'll be at the sports betting conference. Guys, any final thoughts on this Monday, Spencer?
Yeah, they had the wild NASCAR race yesterday at Atlanta. Ended up one of the favorites won, Chase Elliott. I thought a long shot was going to do it, which almost happened. Corey LaJoie almost passed him on the last lap. And then they had a crazy deal. Ross caused not one but 2 wrecks, and that's the truth with him. He better watch out, because he's going to get in trouble at some point driving recklessly like that. And then there's a lot of craziness with MLB. So not 1, not 2, but 3 teams go undefeated last week. Your Mariners, Zach, the Dodgers, and the Orioles of all teams. The freaking Orioles. It's just been a wild deal with that. I need my Cardinals to get back on track. Had a rough week, but yeah, it's been the baseball world's been quite.
I've had a lot of fun watching baseball the last week, and so go Mariners. Jim, your final thought?
Dodgers don't count because they played 4 games against the Cubs, so that doesn't really count. By the way, at 5-0 yesterday, they were losing 5-0 in the first inning, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go bet on the Dodgers, and they were still down 5-0 the best odds I could get plus 240. That's insane.
That's amazing.
In a 5-0 baseball
and they
game.
covered. I mean, they won
easily.
Obviously, so.
And
they won by what three or four runs.
Didn't touch it. I should have bet the over though. Look, I'm looking forward to. We talk about this is what sports writers live for, right? You get back from vacation in the summer, and the clock turns to football, and we're going to be 85-90% football now going forward. I am excited about the previews. I knew this first week was going to be tougher than the rest, setting up templates for the videos and for our stories and everything. But I think the readers are really going to enjoy it. And Datitude is back on Friday. I don't know who my guest is yet, but it's getting back into the flow. I am looking forward to it, and I hope that everybody just gets a chance, take a look at it, and let me know what you think.
Yeah, it is that time of year. I think we're 52 days from opening night in college football, and then another week 59 from the opening night in the NFL. So seriously looking forward to all of that. And as I said, Thursday at the book, 4:00, be here on these same social channels. And we're going to talk a lot of football on Thursday. Until then, our thanks to Daniel Sallerson of the New Orleans Pelicans for stopping by and talking some NBA and some Pels with us. For Spencer the Guru and Jim Derry, I'm Zach Ewing. Have a good day, everybody.